Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Trump struggling to gain approval in his job performance. With his net negative approval ratings in the double digits in all three of these polls, he's upside down 13 points, according to Quinnipiac, with a 41% approval rating. In CNN's poll, he's upside down 11 points with a 42% approval rating, and he's down 17 points in the Gallup poll with a 39% rating in their weekly tracking poll. Asked by the Quinnipiac poll whether they like Trump as a person, 31% of voters say yes, while 59% say they dislike him. On the president's Twitter habits, 26% believe he should continue tweeting, while 66% think he should stop. Heidi, we were talking about this yesterday. With a strong economy, unemployment at 3.9%, you would expect President Trump to be up over 41%, where he's been locked in almost from the beginning.
And we talked about that yesterday, Willie, so I took an attempt to look a little closer at these numbers, and I saw a real danger zone within the numbers, which was the question about what he's doing for the middle class. Remember, this was the whole premise of his campaign, was that he was going to buck the establishment that he ran against to elevate the needs of the forgotten man. According to the polling, by a margin of 58% to 38%, he is not doing enough to help the middle class. And those white voters without college degrees, among them, he is now evenly split. So there's no advantage for Donald Trump now in this Quinnipiac poll among white voters without college degrees. I think that is really notable, and it speaks directly to the debate that you were just having about President Trump as a deal maker. So we're now a year and a half into this presidency that was premised on helping the forgotten man. And we all saw from the very beginning what happened with Donald Trump. He may have come in with the best of intentions in terms of helping the forgotten man, but he was immediately co-opted by that very establishment in terms of the agenda that was pushed through Congress.
Conservatism is a racket.
It is. It always has been. It always will be. Hi, everybody. How are you? So the polls. Ooh, bend over, baby. This is going to hurt. Big blue wave. Woo! At least we lube before we, Yeah. So here's what it looks like, okay? Nobody is believing anything that Donald Trump says anymore. Only 34% of America approve of Donald Trump's handling of the Russia investigation. 55% disapprove. Almost 60%, 58% think the Mueller investigation is a serious matter. 37% think it's an effort to discredit Donald Trump, or the QAnon folks, right? By the way, QAnon's been exposed today as being a husband and wife team with a PayPal and Patreon account who have been posting as this mysterious Q to rip you off. Good,
Conservatism is a racket.
Unbelievable. So, they're just making money off of your paranoia is what it is. The people behind the effort, turns out it's a husband and a wife. It's a guy in South Africa. It's a girl named Tracy Diaz. And by the way, I got to say that the 8chan channel that they were posting on has been hosting child pornography. Can I just say that they project all this pedophilia onto? I mean, don't you think Alex Jones protests about pedophilia entirely too much? Yeah, it's everything that you're looking at there is connected to a Patreon account, a PayPal account. They shut down the Reddit board in March for QAnon for encouraging or inciting violence and posting personal and confidential information. And the moderators, Ms. Diaz and the rest, have been banned from the site. The other guy who's from South Africa, his name's Mr. Ferber. It's always a guy named Ferber. He'd been booted from the site for threatening to reveal the personal details of another user, and he was pushed out of the private Q discussion groups that he helped build. And, after Reddit, you have this man named Mr. Rogers, He hatched a new plan. He's 31. His wife, Christina, is 29. And they launched this thing called Patriot Soapbox, around the clock live streamed YouTube channel for QAnon study and discussions. And they were taking donations as well, PayPal, cryptocurrencies, mail donations, whatever you wanted to give them. And it turns out that, they were making money, and that people caught him, Mr. Rogers, posting as Q. Yeah. And so now QAnon followers have themselves accused Miss Diaz and Mr. Rogers of profiting from this, mysterious movement, soliciting donations, and the other Trump pro-Trump online groups. They've begun to question Diaz and Rogers, and they are banning Q discussions on their websites now. So there you have it. You've got, various YouTube channels probing, the other YouTube channels. You've got all for this conspiracy theory, but we digress. Okay, so here is what you have. You have 37% who think that this is a deep state plot to discredit Trump, but almost 60% of this country think this Russia investigation is a very serious matter and should be investigated. And in fact, today we are experiencing the court, the jury, is being treated to the closing arguments in the Paul Manafort trial. 18 counts of tax and bank fraud. Each of those would carry, 10 to life. I mean, 18 counts is 180 years on the low end. Bye-bye, dickhead. See you in Attica. But it is interesting that yesterday the Manafort defense chose to put on no defense. I mean, none. They didn't even try to question the chain of, an OJ. They questioned the chain of custody for the blood spatter. Remember? And you had, what was that detective? Not Furman, who used the N-word. The other one.
Fung,
Yes,
who
yes.
mishandled the evidence.
Yes, Mr. Fung. Very good, Brett. Very good. Yeah, and they didn't even try to say that maybe there was an accounting mistake, maybe there was, nothing. They just said nothing further. They didn't present a defense at all, which tells you that either Manafort is indefensible, and I doubt it, because these men make, at least $1,000 an hour and up to defend scum of the earth, guys who, take transactions from the Bank of Cyprus, Wilbur Ross's old bank, and move it into, Python jacket purchases. Only people like that get can have $1,000 an hour attorneys. The rest of us are either going to plead down, plead guilty, throw ourselves on the mercy of the court, go without go with a public defense. You know what I mean? So. But anyway, they didn't even bother to put on a defense, which means either Paul Manafort's indefensible, which I say, they could have come up with something, or Manafort is counting on a pardon and didn't want anything presented in his defense because, A, he has a second trial that he's got to deal with next, middle of next month, September, in D.C., and also if he stays quiet and he proves his loyalty to Trump, Trump will pardon him. I mean, this is all I could think of. But right now, you do have, I think they're at lunch. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know, whatever happened to the rock attack. But I think that, the prosecution they gave 2 hours for the closing arguments for each side. So I think the defense is already, I don't know. I mean, we had cameras in the courtroom for Mr. Fung. Right, Nephi Bailey, have you now or ever used the N-word? Which, by the way, is germane to today. Everything that's going on today, as if Donald Trump needs to have used the N-word in order for Americans who are part of the QAnon or who are part of the pro-Trump, in order for them to say, okay, so now I get it. He is a racist. I mean, he has to have tape record. I mean, he said he could grab women by the P word. He called Mexicans rapists. He said Judge Curiel couldn't sit and, and be the judge in the Trump University fraud case, right? Because he's a fraudster. Because he had Mexican heritage somewhere in his immigration story. I mean, he was an American judge from Indiana, but, all these things he said, everything he did, if somehow if he said the N-word, that would convince the Trump there are other schools of thought. Like, for instance, Charles M. Blow, who writes for the New York Times. He and I are in agreement that if a tape should emerge with Trump saying the N-word, and I have a funny feeling that will emerge, and it won't be just the one time. It'll be around 16, 17 times. And, I think that the cutoff for, Trump supporters might be, maybe if he said it 15 times, they'd say, oh, well. But maybe the 16th and 17th time means he is a racist. I don't know. I mean, Scotty and I were talking. We were discussing. And he said, it's the 16th. It's the rule 16. 16 times you're a racist. 15, because we're just making crap up. Because they will make crap up. But Charles M. Blow and I are of the same school of thought, and that if Trump's tapes do emerge, let's say on Tom Arnold's new show for Viceland, it will be a plus for the white supremacists.
This is a 70-year-old man who has given decades of interviews, said all manner of things when he was not a politician, when he never thought that he was going to be a politician. That is part of the record, and we keep having some strange standard with him where people want us to start over every week, every month, every year, every decade. All those things that he said before don't matter. Yeah. We shouldn't take those into account, even though he has never apologized for any of it. He has never walked back away from it. The only thing that he did try to walk back, show some contrition about, but was not doing it fully, was the Access Hollywood tape, because he thought it was going to sink him. And then after the fact, he said, I should not have done that. And maybe it's not even me on the tape, which is a complete lie. But so when you see a person who has basically done this, and this is evidence of both racism, sexism, misogyny, never apologized for it, never walked away from it, how do you then expect me, any other American who's seen that, to not take that into their calculation about his other behaviors and run everything he does through that filter? Not doing that is kind of a sign of insanity. We would be insane if we weren't doing that. We would be insane if we kept questioning and saying this is a matter of opinion of whether he's a racist or not. No, it's not. That's deductive reasoning. He is. He is. And people have basically cooked that into the books. I think that if you found the tape of him using the N-word, it might actually increase his support among the people who support him. This does nothing to them. They are so baked in. They believe wholeheartedly in this approach that he is taking. And none of these insults to people who look like me hurt them, because it is not them. And it is not a betrayal of their belief in him. It is not a betrayal of what they want him to do. This is exactly what they want him to do. If you're still supporting him after Charlottesville, if you're still supporting him after what he said about Haiti and African country, if you're still supporting him what he said about Mexicans, if you're still supporting him after he said that Islam hates us, then this is what you want from him. I don't know what else we're supposed to say. This is not a debate. This is who he is. This is what they accepted. This is what they want.
It is what they want. But they're an ever-shrinking part of the electorate. That's the good news. I mean, again, only 26% of America identifies themselves as being Republican. So when you hear these numbers that 41% or 39% of Republicans still support Trump, or 50% or 51% think that Donald Trump's meme about the press being the enemy of the people, that's a new number today. 51% of the GOP believe that the media is an enemy of the people. The New York Times is an enemy of the people. Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, enemy of the people. But remember, it's 51% of 26% of America. These are ever-shrinking numbers. actually they don't matter. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.